期，都好大嘅信心。
3G 業務首次錄得盈利，和黃全年賺200億，好過預期，派息10年嚟首次增加，咁但係派息比率就下降。
農行全年賺940幾億人民幣，升4%，貸款增長1%，淨息差擴闊到2厘57。
手機補貼大增，聯通全年嘅盈利跌近60%，咁預期今年手機補貼會進一步增加。歡迎入線財經資訊台同第一台嘅觀眾，我係李燕芬，
我係陶俊文。Francis 啊，今日咧業績期嘅超級星期二啦，大市係全日冇方向，波幅得個百零點啫。大家都寧願等埋收市之後咧，睇晒啲業績出嚟係點先決定啊嘛。係啊，
咁相信咧今日咧就等得最心急嘅咧，應該係一班和黃嘅股東啦。最終咧都走出咗隧道嘅盡頭啦嚇。咁經過10年嘅努力啦，3G 嘅業務啦喺特殊嘅收入帶動之下，首次咧係錄得盈利啦。
仲有喎，加埋咧零售啦、港口業務增長，和黃全年賺成200億㗎，超出晒市場最樂觀嘅預測。
成哥咧就當然咧就兌現承諾啦，話會增加派息啊，末期息咧派多咗1成6嘅喎。
只不過派息增長跟唔到盈利增幅㗎，計條數就知啦。派息比率咧係不升反跌，由09年嘅5成幾減到去4成嘅喎。
成哥咧當然係會俾人問啦，點解派息比率低咗㗎？咁佢就話咧係為咗業務嘅靈活性同埋符合政治經濟環境需要喎。
只不過我話齋咧，唔等咗10年㗎，唔爭再睇長遠啲嘅。成哥喺主席報告咧繼續係保留住一句前景秀麗。仲強調 3G 咧唔再係集團嘅負擔，反而係變成提供貢獻。由黃瑞華講下。
投資10年，3G 終於有回報，亦帶動和黃全年賺咗200億，增長。口信託今年度就錄得440億嘅特殊收益。有線電視記者黃瑞華報導。
和黃咧出嚟份業績就超出預期啦，不過可能近期啲散戶咧都見到好多業績咧都係見光死喎，擔心和黃咧都會係同一命運啊，咁搞到咧和黃喺尾市沽盤大增啊，跌穿咗咧就係呢個89蚊啊，收市咧都跌咗2%喎。
但其實咧會唔會係擔心咗過龍沽早咗咧？事關和黃霍大班咧喺分析員會議再次係派定心丸，透露話和黃咧今年1、2月份嘅表現係10年嚟最好嘅。
再睇埋大行啦，其實佢哋都收貨㗎。美銀美林咧就維持和黃買入嘅評級啊。美林就話啦，和黃3G 嘅錄得核心盈利啦，就係靠非經常項目㗎。佢哋相信今年會係3G 一個關鍵嘅投資期啊。因為咧就歐洲多國4G 嘅牌照費啦，每個都要成3億歐元以上㗎。和黃要決定係咪繼續投資，定係會賣盤撤出呢個市場呢？不過咧，隨住3G 改善啦，令到和黃有實力去投資更多嘅項目啊，咁都有利提高個估值㗎。佢哋咧就提高咗個盈利預測同埋資產淨值㗎，維持一個買入嘅評級，目標價咧就睇104蚊。
至於長實啦，全年盈利係升3成半，舊年賺264億，扣除物業重估係賺咗114億，升2成6，末期息2個4毫半，多咗1成1。 而期內嘅營業額增加3成半，其中嚟自物業銷售嘅營業額升3成6，有接近293億。物業銷售收益增加6%，包括係賣咗領都、名城第一期等等嘅多個項目。而至於租務收益就升6%，有11億幾。詳實話，今年賣樓收益除咗已經賣咗未入帳嘅領豐同天宇海，仲有名城第二期同埋上裕等等嘅項目。
終於咧都等到啦，搞咁耐，蝕咁耐。
By an earthquake and lashed by a tsunami.
But the Hong Kong Observatory says people should not panic as the amount is too tiny to endanger human health. ATV's Ann Choi reports.
Public concerns over the radiation leak from Japan's ongoing nuclear crisis appear to have been justified.
We found that there are very tiny amount of radioactive iodine-131 inside the sample.
The radioactive particles were detected over the weekend, the first time that material leaked from the crippled Daiichi nuclear plant in Fukushima has been found in the city's air. But the observatory stressed there is nothing to be worried about.
The radioactive substance inside the sample was very low, so the concentration was too low to have any health effects to us. So the members of the public should not worry about.
Experts reassured the public today that the amounts detected on Saturday and Sunday were so minute they could hardly pose a threat to human health. To put that into perspective, officials say a person needs to breathe that tiny amount of radioactive substance for 2,500 years before there's a health threat. That's the equivalent of getting one X-ray. Officials, however, rejected accusations that they had delayed releasing the news. The observatory said although it made the discovery over the weekend, detailed analysis was needed before an announcement could be made today. It added that radiation levels in Hong Kong should remain normal in the next few days.
Even though the winds will mainly blow from the north or the northeast, we are not expecting that the radiation levels will rise.
The mainland, too, found low levels of radioactive particles in its air today. The Ministry of Environmental Protection said monitoring stations in coastal areas from Shanghai in the east all the way to the southern region of Guangxi had found small doses of iodine-131, which drifted in from the Japanese nuclear power plant. The same radioactive material was found above the northeastern province of Heilongjiang last weekend. But authorities stressed the radiation dose was too weak to pose any danger, and the public did not need to take preventive measures. The government, however, pledged to step up surveillance on the nation's water and food, including meat, vegetables, and fresh milk. Checks will also be carried out on seafood following radiation contamination in the sea off Fukushima. In Hong Kong, Center for Food Safety experts held an emergency meeting this afternoon to discuss how to deal with food imported from Japan. Restaurant representatives who attended the meeting called for health certificates to be issued as proof that food imports from Japan have been checked and found to be safe. Despite assurances that radiation levels are not harmful, many aren't convinced. Around 10,000 workers at Hong Kong International Airport are worried about their health, as they have to handle around 90,000 tons of cargo which arrive from Japan daily. Unions representing ground staff are urging the authorities to provide guidelines and protective gear to ease the workers' fears. Meanwhile, Cathay Pacific will suspend some of its flights to Japan from the middle of next month because of a sharp drop in the number of travelers. Ann Choi, ATV News.
The Japanese Prime Minister was criticized by lawmakers today for his handling of the country's worst nuclear crisis since the Second World War.
Now, Otto Khan told Parliament the situation at the crippled atomic plant was unpredictable, just as the operator of the facility announced that plutonium was found in the soil there, more than 2 weeks after the complex was hit by a massive earthquake and tsunami.
Owners of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, which was damaged in the 11th of March earthquake and tsunami, collected samples from 5 locations around the complex last Monday and Tuesday. TEPCO found 2 samples of soil contaminated with toxic plutonium, a byproduct of nuclear reactions that's also used in atomic bombs. Plutonium can remain in the human body for decades, exposing organs and tissues to radiation and increasing the risk of cancer.
The detected amount of plutonium is extremely small and will not affect the human health. But we'd like to reinforce monitoring of the surrounding environment from now on, just in case.
The Japanese government today said the type of plutonium detected included those found in nuclear fuel, making it most likely that fuel rods were the source.
We have very high radioactivity in the water that is flooded in the vicinity. And this too is proof of this comes from the reactor. It is serious, but our intention is to try to contain the impact on the peripheral areas.
Edinor made clear that the level of plutonium was similar to that detected in Japan after neighbouring countries such as North Korea and China conducted nuclear experiments. The government said yesterday that a large amount of highly radioactive water had escaped from the No. 2 reactor's turbine building into an underground tunnel and might leak into the Pacific Ocean. It's believed the water came into contact with fuel rods which have partially melted. But Japan's nuclear officials today said the radioactive water wasn't confirmed to have seeped into the sea.
Every half a day, visual monitoring has been conducted, and there is no evidence of overflow observed yet.
So we are asking TEPCO to make surveys.
The radiation in the water measured 1,000 millisieverts an hour, a dose that can cause temporary radiation sickness with nausea and vomiting for people who are exposed. TEPCO is piling up sandbags and concrete around the mouth of tunnels to prevent flooding and has also reduced the amount of water being injected into reactor 2, but the temperature has risen by 20 degrees Celsius.
We stop water injection. Fuel rod's temperature may increase, and this may result in overheating, and this must be prevented. This is given priority. But we would like to reduce the water volume, contain the temperature increase, and we will continue with this effort.
In the Japanese parliament, the country's already deeply unpopular prime minister was lambasted for his handling of the worst atomic crisis since the Second World War. An opposition lawmaker argued that Naoto Kan's visit to the Fukushima plant a day after the double natural disasters had delayed operations to cool the reactors because of fears he could be exposed to radiation. Kan defended his decision, saying it had been important to see the situation with his own eyes.
It was vital for me to visit the earthquake and tsunami-stricken area to understand what is happening there. So I went to the site, and although it was a very brief meeting, I was able to speak to the person in charge of efforts being made at the Daiichi power plant. And it was helpful in making various decisions later on. It is not true that my visit caused a delay in the procedure.
The Japanese leader also said that the situation at the Fukushima atomic plant continues to be unpredictable, as dangerous conditions are still hampering efforts to stop the spread of harmful nuclear materials. Kan added that his government will tackle the problem while in a state of maximum alert.
US President Barack Obama has gone on American television to try to